When someone disrespects you, the last thing they expect is silence. But that silence can cut deeper than any confrontation. In this video, you'll learn how to turn quiet into a force that haunts, humbles, and leaves a mark they can't erase. Stay until the end, because once you understand this, you'll never see silence the same way again. When someone disrespects you, the temptation to react can be intense. You feel an urge to make them understand the impact of their actions, perhaps even to teach them a lesson. You want to defend your worth, to stand up for your dignity, to reclaim your voice. But your greatest strength lies not in confrontation, but in what you withhold. In these moments, silence becomes your most powerful ally. Not the kind of silence born from fear or retreat, but the kind that is rooted in deep self-awareness and calm conviction. By removing your presence, your energy, and your attention, you speak volumes without uttering a word. Those who disrespect you often do so under the assumption that you will still be there. They count on your patience, your understanding, your willingness to stay and smooth things over. They grow complacent, mistaking your kindness for permanence. They assume that your boundaries are flexible, your time elastic, your love unconditional, regardless of their behavior. But when you stop answering calls, ignore their messages, and no longer appear where they expect you, the silence you leave behind becomes deafening. It becomes a space too loud to ignore, a void where your warmth and words once lived, a vacuum that forces them to confront the absence they never thought they'd feel. Suddenly, they're left talking to shadows, wondering what changed. That uncertainty breeds introspection. There's a particular discomfort in being met with silence rather than an argument. It's unsettling. It disrupts their narrative. It compels them to reflect, to rewind the tape, to pinpoint the moment they went too far. That internal reckoning is more transformative than any heated exchange, because it forces them to look inward. It bypasses their defenses and lands where it matters most, their own conscience. Your absence becomes a reflection of their actions, and reflections cannot be argued with. They can only be seen and felt. They reveal, they confront, they haunt. Choosing to withdraw isn't passive, it's a declaration. It means you've chosen your peace over needless conflict. It means you've recognized your worth and no longer feel the need to plead for it to be seen. It shows that your time and energy are no longer available to those who can't value them. You're not seeking to punish, you're choosing to protect. You're not running away, you're rising above. And in doing so, your silence becomes magnetic, your absence unmistakable. There is a certain kind of sovereignty in knowing that you can walk away, not with bitterness, but with grace. At first, they may believe you're simply taking space. They assume you'll return as always. They've seen the cycle before, but days drift into weeks and your silence deepens. It becomes not just a pause, but a boundary. They begin to sense your energy returning to you, your focus sharpening, your presence no longer circling around them. They feel the shift. And then the realization dawns. They lost access not because you made a scene, but because you made a choice. And choices made in silence often echo the loudest. They reverberate through memory, through regret, through all the moments where they thought. You don't need to slam the door to make its closure known. Close it gently and carry yourself away with dignity. That simple act, devoid of noise or anger, leaves a deeper mark than fury ever could. It's the stillness that lingers, echoing long after you've gone, that teaches them the true weight of their loss. And that echo, it stays with them. It doesn't fade, it reminds. There is profound power in evolving quietly. As you begin to rise without broadcasting, without seeking applause, you shift the atmosphere around you. While others are waiting to see you crack or explode, you remain grounded, focused, growing in silence. Every step taken in stillness adds weight to your presence. Every quiet move deepens your impact. And nothing stings more to someone who underestimated you than watching you ascend without even glancing their way. The mistake many make is believing that growth must be shown to be real. But true transformation doesn't need to announce itself. It just unfolds. It becomes. And when it does, it changes everything. As you grow in mind, in spirit, in stability, and you do so without explanation, you gain something invaluable: unpredictability. They can't read your next move. That mystery becomes your strength. It unsettles those who once thought they had you figured out. While they're busy repeating old patterns, talking, mocking, provoking, you've moved on. You've shifted timelines. You're reading, learning, choosing calm over conflict. You're rewriting the script in which you were once the target. And in doing so, you no longer play the role they assigned to you. You no longer reply out of habit. You no longer explain your silence. You no longer RSVP to every invitation for drama. The bait no longer works. And that's when people begin to notice. They don't understand the silence at first, but they feel its weight. It's not your words that shift their perception, it's your evolution. It's the way you now carry yourself. The boundaries you no longer explain. The peace you prioritize without apology. And the beauty of it all. You don't seek revenge. You don't craft comebacks or plot returns. Your glow is the message. It whispers, "You didn't break me, you reminded me of who I am." Every silent stride you take toward your purpose, every private win, every moment you rise in solitude becomes part of a story they never anticipated. They thought you'd stay stuck, dependent, small, that you'd always need validation or a voice louder than yours to narrate your worth. But your quiet transformation proves them wrong. And the most humbling part, you never had to explain your rise. You never had to announce your healing. Eventually, it shows. Through friends, through pictures, through the air you carry when you enter a room. They feel it before you speak. They see it in your eyes, in your posture, in the peace that radiates from your presence. And when they do, the regret arrives. Not because you flaunted your success, but because you never had to. You became the kind of presence they can't ignore and no longer reach. The version of you they once tried to belittle no longer exists. You've outgrown it. You've transcended explanations. You no longer perform your worth, you live it. This is the quiet power of healing. No noise, no vengeance, just consistent, graceful ascent. Let them observe from afar. Let them wonder how you did it. Because your life now reflects everything they thought you couldn't become. That they regret their actions, that's merely a byproduct. A ripple in the wake of your growth, and you won't stop to collect it. You'll keep going. Remaining calm in the face of disrespect is a rare form of strength. It's not about silence as weakness, it's about silence as sovereignty. When someone tries to provoke you, they're often looking for a reaction. They want to pull you into their chaos, they want to rattle your peace. But calmness isn't absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's knowing when to speak and when to simply let your silence say everything. But when you stay composed, when you choose serenity over shouting, you change the game. You deny them the reaction they seek. You hold your ground. You remind them that you're not theirs to shake. This isn't about burying emotions. It's about mastering them. It's knowing your value so deeply, you feel no need to validate it outwardly. That kind of control is unforgettable. That kind of composure becomes your signature. When someone attempts to disturb your peace and finds only stillness, they're left puzzled. They expected heat and got calm. That reveals a deeper truth. They don't steer your emotional state. You do. And that's what leads to their regret. They wanted power. They found a mirror. Disrespect thrives on disruption. It feeds on tension and noise. It looks for friction, for volatility, for the openings that reactive emotions create. But when you answer with presence, with grace, with poise, you disarm the chaos. You become the calm in the storm. You return the mirror to them, and without your emotional reaction to cling to, without the drama they expected to manipulate, they are left to confront the mirror of their behavior. And that confrontation is the beginning of their self-awareness. It's uncomfortable, it's jarring, but it's also necessary. This calmness safeguards your energy. It's your inner sanctuary. Not all battles are worth your sword. Not all provocations deserve your time. Not all words deserve a response. Sometimes walking forward in silence is the greatest act of power. And sometimes the loudest message is the one unspoken. The absence of reaction becomes the most piercing reply. In that stillness, they begin to feel irrelevant. Not because you're punishing them, but because you've chosen peace over participation. They realize they can no longer disrupt your inner world. They can no longer twist your emotions or dictate your mood. And that realization hits deeper than any argument could. It's not rejection, it's revelation. It declares you have no power here. It teaches them the weight of true detachment. The message becomes clear. You are not accessible to chaos. In time, they recognize the truth. You didn't just walk away. You exited with elegance. You didn't storm out. You outgrew the room. That kind of farewell is unforgettable. It lingers, it teaches, it replays in their mind, not as noise, but as a haunting quiet they never expected. Next time someone tries to draw you into turmoil, remember your strength. You don't have to match their volume. Keep your voice soft, keep your heart steady. Let them feel their actions echo in the silence. Let your stillness speak for you. In your stillness, they will hear every word you never said. And it will echo longer than any shout, because silence, when anchored in strength, is unforgettable. One of the purest expressions of self-respect is setting boundaries without needing to explain. When someone disrespects you, the instinct may be to make them understand, to justify your hurt, to explain your distance. But real power is found in living your limits, not defending them. Real confidence doesn't require an audience. And the most sacred boundaries are the ones kept without needing applause. When you draw your lines with calm and consistency, people take notice. It doesn't happen immediately, but over time, the pattern speaks louder than any declaration. Often, they begin to regret ever mistaking your kindness for weakness. You don't shout, you don't lecture, you simply adjust your presence. You pull back, you protect your space, and that shift becomes undeniable. You stop engaging with draining conversations. You decline invitations that cost your peace. You begin to prioritize stillness over performance, solitude over approval. You choose yourself, you choose your peace. At first, they might not grasp what's changing, but slowly the access they once enjoyed begins to dissolve. Not out of anger, but clarity. And clarity has its own gravity. It creates distance with intention. Boundaries aren't barricades, they're gates. They're intelligent. They allow in what nourishes and block what doesn't. And when you start living by them without apology, the clarity unsettles those who once thrived on your openness. They begin to realize the gate now has a guardian, and that guardian is you. They come to see they can no longer sway you, guilt you, or push past your lines. That's when regret settles in, not because you were cruel, but because your silence now carries all the weight. It carries your truth, it speaks your standards, it reflects your healing. You teach others how to treat you by what you accept and what you reject. When you stop explaining your worth and start living it, the dynamic shifts. And those who once spoke over your silence now hear it clearly. Those who once disrespected you will feel your absence where they once had unearned access. That void becomes their teacher. It's not punishment, it's a pause. It prompts them to ask why the version of you who once gave endlessly has disappeared. And that absence, it's a classroom, one they never expected to enter, one they won't forget. You don't need to announce your boundaries, you embody them in your energy, in your tone, in your choices. And when they're crossed, you don't react, you readjust quietly, firmly, with unwavering grace, with a presence that says everything without a single word. That adjustment speaks more than confrontation ever could. It says, I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I will not compromise. Not again, not ever. It is not spite, it's self-respect in motion. In time, they recall your past generosity, your patience, your presence, the way you used to show up, fully, consistently, unconditionally. And when they compare it to the silence they now hear, that contrast speaks volumes. Not because you changed, but because you finally honored yourself, because you stopped overgiving, because you came home to you. There's a wisdom in not chasing vengeance. Not because you lack fire, but because you trust in a greater balance. Because you understand that peace is not passive, it's powerful. When someone wrongs you, it's tempting to even the score, to show them you're not one to be crossed. But maturity is knowing you don't need to. Your growth is enough. Your evolution is the answer. Let life handle the reckoning. Let karma speak where you remain silent. Let the universe realign what has been thrown out of balance. That choice is liberation. That choice is peace. It's not a sign of weakness, but a sign of inner mastery. Revenge binds you to pain. It holds your energy in the past. It keeps your hands clenched when they should be free. But when you redirect that energy into becoming the best version of yourself, you break free. You rise. You move beyond the cycle. And as you rise, they remain behind, watching, silently, regretfully. That truth cuts deeper than any sharp word. That view is their lesson. You never needed to make a point. Your life became the punctuation. Karma isn't loud. It's timely. It doesn't rush or rage. It finds people where they least expect. In a quiet moment, in an unanswered text, in the absence they once took for granted. While they stay in patterns that cause harm, life teaches them in ways you never could. And life is the most patient teacher of all. It doesn't shout, it waits. Meanwhile, you've built peace, grown quietly, thrived steadily. That alone becomes your loudest statement. Your life becomes your message. A message written not in anger, but in alignment. There's nobility in walking away when you could retaliate. There's dignity in silence when chaos calls for noise. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your triumphs. Let them watch from a distance. Let the silence between you become the story, because sometimes silence says everything. In choosing healing over harm, you gift yourself serenity. You let go of the burden of revenge. You let your evolution, and it speaks louder than any scream, louder than any comeback. So don't waste your light trying to cast shadows on those who try to dim you. Just keep moving forward, strong, focused, unshaken. You owe no performance. Eventually, they will feel it, your absence, your growth, your quiet strength, and they will feel it deeply. Not just in their mind, but in their spirit, in their memories, in the space you used to fill. And in that stillness, they will understand what they lost, not in noise, but in clarity. Because clarity doesn't demand attention, it earns it. Sometimes the boldest move you can make is to vanish, not as an escape, but as an act of honor, as a return to self, a declaration that your energy is sacred. When someone repeatedly disrespects, they believe you'll stay. They grow used to your presence, entitled to it. But when you walk away without fanfare, without drama, your silence becomes a message they'll replay in their minds over and over. This isn't about disappearing to be cruel. It's about reclaiming your power, about stepping out of spaces where you were undervalued, about choosing the sanctuary of your soul. You stop waiting for closure. You stop trying to fix what you didn't damage. You stop begging for respect you always deserved. You leave quietly, completely, gracefully, unapologetically. That kind of disappearance leaves a mark because it offers nothing to argue with. No confrontation, no last words, just a space they can't fill. Just a silence they can't silence. One moment you were there, then you weren't. That emptiness becomes their teacher. It haunts, it humbles. They learn that your presence was never owed. It was a blessing, a sacred offering, one they should have cherished. In time, they may reach out, but you've moved on, grown, healed, created peace, and your peace is no longer negotiable. Your departure wasn't to punish them. It was to protect yourself. It was to choose your light, and you did. Silence is not surrender. Often it's elevation. When you walk away from what depletes you, you open space for what uplifts you, what fills you, what fuels your growth. Those who once disrespected you will watch your rise from a distance, from behind the barrier of your boundaries. From the other side of the gate, they can no longer enter. That realization is louder than any argument. It resounds through time, through memory, through absence. So when someone treats you as though your presence doesn't matter, don't argue, don't plead, don't shrink, just walk away, softly, with strength. Because long after you're gone, your silence will remain. And in that stillness, regret will speak, loudly, clearly, inevitably.